Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. We're being joined over the phone by human rights activist Comrade Gerald Katchy, who joins us to discuss issues in the news this morning. Hello, Comrade. Good morning to you once again. Can you hear me?
Good morning to you, and thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Now, let's delve straight into the issues. I don't know if you've seen the communique which was issued by the Nigerian Labour Congress following the conclusion of its National Administrative Council meeting held yesterday.
Oh,
They're
yes.
beautiful. Now, there are plans that come Tuesday, February 4th, there would be a nationwide protest against the 50% telecom tariff hike as approved by the NCC. What do you make of this planned nationwide protest by the NLC?
Well, I think it's a right call in the right direction in the sense that in these past few months and years of this administration, it has been emerged with a lot of policies that make life difficult for the citizenry, and we expect that having seen that most of the policies that they have embarked upon has caused untold hardship, certain things should be, slowed down. Things like this increase in tariff with regards to telecommunications and even tax reforms. Sincere government that wants the best for its people should at least slow down. Having seen that other policies that we have embarked upon, like subsidy removal, floating of naira, and what have you, has caused untold hardship. You understand? It has made a lot of people into depression and made create even more poverty than what we have had in the history of this country. So I support organized labor in their call. And even to me, I'm thinking that the call is a bit late. In the sense that as a December ending, we experience a reduction in energy sector, fuel price. And we are thinking that maybe some of the promises of the Renewed Hope agenda is coming to pass, that the fuel will continue on the downward this thing. But coming to these past few weeks, we have seen increase. So I had expected the organized labor, to react in that direction. But nevertheless, no time is late. You understand? No time is late. You cannot just keep quiet and watch the government exploit and stop Nigerians in one way or the other, So it's a clarion call that every good citizen and patriot is supposed to give support to.
Now, Comrade Katchy, let's put things into perspectives in fairness to the operators of telecoms in Nigeria. I was looking at the argument they were making. And some of the arguments they were making is that in the last 12 years, there has not been an increase in tariff despite the exchange of the dollar rate and the cost of operation also hiking. Do you think that owing to the profit-driven nature of telecom operators, there should be some conversations on at least increasing the tariffs to match the reality of the exchange rate and the increased cost of running business owing to the economic realities we're facing in Nigeria?
Oh, yes. They will have a valid point with regards to cost of running business, especially with regards to the exchange rate and energy that they use to sustain these services they render. But then, this is where government comes in. And this is why organizations like ours, like the one I belong to, we continue to call for return of fuel subsidy or energy subsidy. You understand? It will help to, reduce the cost of services and even goods. You understand? On the other hand, yes, there's nobody that runs business in Nigeria that have not in one way or the other increased what he produces. As at before the advent of this administration, a loaf of family bread is being sold between 500 to 800, as the case may be, depending on the size. But the biggest size you get, especially in Abuja here, as at then, you get it between 600 to 800. The one they call lion share. But they have increased. You get it from 2,000 naira upwards. So, meaning that it's reflective to what they purchase. It's reflective to what they produce. So, I kind of, pity those that render services like telecommunications. Because what we are facing as a people is what they are facing. But then, giving back to the society what they have earned over the years that are run into trillions of profit, they should find a way to navigate. They must find a way to navigate. This is where we expect government to, absorb some of the shocks they are taking. Hence, they are not prepared to give subsidy to the citizens. They should be able to give subsidy to these service providers. They should possibly find a way either to waive some of the taxes they are paying so that they will meet up with their services, rather than pushing it back to the Nigerian people. This is where government must play its role. Since you are not prepared to give your citizens subsidy, find a way to give subsidy to these service providers.
Now, in finding a way,
some of the taxes they are paying to the government.
One thing I believe you're reiterating is the role government needs to play. And I was looking at paragraph 3 of the communique signed by the NLC president, Comrade Gerald O. He stated in reference to the 70,000 naira minimum wage, saying that minimum wage would not accommodate 15% being spent on communicating, because he did the math and said, with the increase in tariff, that means Nigerian workers will be spending 15% of 70,000 naira just to recharge their phones and communicate in a month. And on the part of government, that a wage review would be tantamount to helping Nigerians shoulder the cost of this increase across commodity boards. I don't know.
Honestly speaking, it appears like we are having a government that acts before they think. And on the part of organized labor, we kicked against them accepting the minimum wage of 70,000 naira when the heat was so on. We stood our ground that the minimum wage, based on the realities, should be between 240 to 250,000 naira per month. Hence, we have embarked on economic reforms that we don't know where it will end us, but we have been in anticipation that it will be good for our nation. Just like most of the visions we have in the years past, we are different. Successive governments will come and give you vision, either vision 2010, vision 2020, and so on and so. At the end of the day, we will get to that point. Most of the things they plan to do, if you put index, you discover that they have not even achieved up to 25% of it. Now, the organized labor shouldn't be crying that minimum wage is low, because if they are honest in that work, they should go back, demand a living wage. That minimum wage, as it stands today, cannot even take any worker to work for 30 days. The transport sector is something else. Meaning that before you earn your wages or your salaries, you must always be on debt. Just except the ones that are padding budgets or stealing or finding another way, to survive. But if you are dependent on your salary, there's no way that at the end of every month you will not be in debt. Except those that are earning in hundreds of thousands or possible millions. So, if organized labor is in lamentation, saying that 15% of their salary will go on, yes, it's part of the things we foresaw and was making our ground. In fact, it's part of the things we carried on up until August end bad governance protests. It's part of our demands. They should review these things. If a 70,000 naira cannot feed a family of 3, then what are we saying? If your minimum wage cannot even purchase 50 kg of rice, what are you saying? So, if you put all of this together, at a point we are demanding that government should go back to status quo where they met the economic governance system as at May 29, 2023. Because it appears like most of the things they have promised, we had expected that the commencement of refining crude in Nigeria, either by Dangote or Nigerian oil refiners, will metamorphose into reduction in energy sector, but that is not the case. It shows that there's no sincerity. It shows that those running the affairs of this country are profit-driven people, and profit-driven people is not far from greed.
Now let's talk about some other options which the NLC are also suggesting. I don't know what next week Tuesday would look like with the nationwide rally with Labour and its affiliates, but they're talking about probably also boycotting the services available now. I don't know what the options are for Nigerians, but do you think it is possible to boycott the services of the major players in the telecommunication sector as we have it now and still have efficient communication across the country?
That boils down to serious doom. As of last year, when Gerald O, the NLC president, was arrested, some of the things they wanted to charge him for was economic sabotage and what have you. You understand? Of course, my organization we support will be on the street in solidarity with organized labor in this rally, to demand review of some of these policies or increase in tariffs or what have you that has been even adding salt to injury to what we already facing. But then, total shutdown has its own advantage and disadvantage. If we shut down totally to force the government to react, at least for the interest of the masses, it will go two ways. Assuming they make the threat of withdrawal of service, and maybe telecommunications, follow suit. Yes, they know what they will lose. They shut down Gabada. What I mean, they shut down totally. Do you know the implications of it? It will affect our security. It will affect our health care. It will affect the education system. It will affect almost everything, including the government. So it's something I expect now that they have issued this notice. Government to quickly swing into action. You understand? We shouldn't be a reactive government. We should have a government that is very responsive, that foresees outcome of whatever they want to embark upon. Why the NCC were negotiating this tariff increase, how did they carry organized labor along? If they had carried organized labor along in their negotiation with service providers and this discussion, probably this kind of thing will not happen. We saw when they were doing this issue of the energy sector, how they carry Fetus Osifo, that is the TUC president, and how whenever he comes on stage to give explanation, he gives more informed explanation than what even the government spokesperson gives. That's what African adage says, apologies. No, they make wound go, but they make mind to calm down. Pardon me if I use our
local parlance, no problem.
You understand? There's a way you carry this kind of persons along, the organized labor, and they come out to explain to workers. They come out to explain to Nigerians. Look at what the indices they are using to come to this conclusion. Look at what we have negotiated. They were looking at A, we say B can be better, putting A and B in between. That you understand it. But you cannot just ignore them and neglect them and make such come to such resolutions, and you want to force it down on the people. No, it doesn't work that way. So I expect the government now to be proactive. See how they can bring organized labor into the decisions they have taken. Between now and the 3rd February, we still have up to 3 days. Even if it requires to have a marathon meeting, let them engage and possibly see, yes, if there must be need for increment, Government can part from some of the things they are benefiting from these telecommunications. Waive something for them so that they'll be able to stay in business. Demand for some more quality services. And then reduce, even if there must be increments. It shouldn't be 50%, just like we are having in our government. Whenever they want to do increment, they do it in such a way that is very sensitive. You can say, okay, we start with 15% increment. And between now and maybe June, we expect that the energy sector, for example, the price of PMS, which is above 1,000 naira, would have dropped up to 600 naira. By then, they will recover for whatever they have spent. Mean the service providers, whether they borrow money to sustain, by the time the energy sector drops, they can engage in recovery. These are hard to negotiate. You don't just hold your hands when you push the people to the wall and they react, to start shouting economic sabotage. Because that is where it will end up. Before you know it now, they will start suppressing voices. You will start seeing NIA, DSS claiming they have intelligence reports and start enforcing arrestment on the organizers like Joe Ajero or Osifu or any other leaders in the struggle. That is what you will see.
Well, very well reiterated. Now, moving forward, if it is about the percentage increase, what would be a reasonable margin that you would suggest should the NLC and the NLC sit down to go forward? Because the operators would want to make profit. What would be the reasonable percentage you would suggest that they embark upon?
I have suggested 15%.
15 out of 50?
Yes. Even at 15%, the service providers may be running at a loss. This is where government needs to come in. Whatever they must have been aiming from the telecommunication in the past years, over 20 years plus, it's time to give back. Even if for certain moves, until some of the policies they have promised us that this year will be better, they start implementing it. That's when they can end back what they are spending. You must not subject us, all of us, to suffering, and that you'll be living in affluence. You'll be buying new cars every year, buying new jets, renewing your house almost on every year. Look at the budget they made for clinic in Aso Rock that they are not using. So it's time to give back to these people. Nigerians must not be made to bear the brunt of bad governance of over the years. Nigerians must not be made to suffer all the maladministration. In fact, as it stands now, if care is not taken, if Nigerians are pushed to the streets, NSAS protests will be a child's play, because that rally... Well,
let's not go down that.
But what I'm trying to say is, it's only a tree that you will tell you will cut, and the tree will be standing there. Now that most of Nigerians have seen that whenever they go out to express their God-given fundamental right of expression, which is called protest or rally, they are being meted with forced suppression. They may radicalize the movement.
Well, let's not hope for the worst in the best interest of our economic gains. And we're looking forward to February 4th. We're hoping that everything goes peaceful. But now talking about security from the angle of the federal government's intervention, another issue making the rounds this morning is the Lake Chad Basin. It has been talked about in the past 15 years as one of the reasons why we have insurgency, terrorism, and banditry in the country. Now, on Wednesday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was speaking at the 5th meeting of the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum, and he called for a multifaceted approach in tackling the challenges. Particularly, he's of the opinion that poverty is the root cause of all the insecurity, banditry, and terrorism we find around the Lake Chad Basin and its bordering states. What do you make of this assertion?
Oh, yes. He made a very valid and truthful call, because the basis for terrorism, the primary cause of insecurity, is not far-fetched, it's poverty. in a local palace, it's a man must work. When people cannot find something to do to provide for themselves, they devise another means of doing it. And this is where I have been making calls that our government international policies should improve, especially with our neighboring states and neighboring countries. Yes, he has called for collaboration with other neighboring countries, but as of today, our relationship with Niger is not that cordial than what it used to be. I can't talk of even the Chad. So if we don't have a very cordial relationship, how can we say, okay, we can fight terrorism to a standstill? Over the years, since the insurgents, came up, we have spent more money in buying of hardware, equipments, to kill these guys. But there's no number of weapons you purchase in the world that will keep poverty. So we should devise another means of handling these things. And this is where I gave former administration of Goodluck Jonathan thumbs up when they created these Amajiri schools to educate. If they have sustained that Amajiri school with a school feeding program that Buhari administration and they continue from a Jonathan regime, it will make a lot of sense. Most of these out-of-school children that are usually being recruited into terrorism will not find means of going to that place. But because we don't have child birth control in this country, anybody can give any number of children he wants to give and decide whatever he wants to do with the children, either to give them plates to roam around the streets. Understand? At the end of the day, you will continue to have issues like this. So I think government policies that is geared towards giving economic power to the citizens will help in fight against insecurity and terrorism. If people begin to have the ability to take care of themselves and not what we are having today, where people are struggling and they are still being exploited and exploited, certainly every effort towards ending insecurity and terrorism will yield fruit.
Well, I like the way you put it, but let's still speak into the issues in Borno, particularly Maiduguri. Whilst insecurity is part of the issues, last year we saw an unprecedented natural disaster in floods that displaced several millions. They needed international aid to be able to shore up some of the damages. There were some calls about the instability of the Alao Dam and how it contributed to the floods in Borno State. Some investigations were done, but no concluding reports were issued as to what the cause of the floods were and if it was actual from the instability of the dam. What do you make about this? We're going into another rainy season in the few coming months, and I don't hope that we'll be revisiting this conversation again.
You see, issues that have happened and continue to happen is because we are not having consequences for bad behavior. When they come in terms of flood, yes, it's not far-fetched. It started with when the Cameroon released the Lado Dam. Yes, there were announcements. But then, when they were designing that Lado Dam, they carried Nigerian, there was communication for us to have our own reservoir, our own dam that will collect some of this excess water to reduce the flow. You understand? But then, some of the things that we plan to do from the time of Shehu Shagari to date, have we been able to do so? So the one that was supposed to site in Taraba, the one that's supposed to be in Brunu, one that's supposed to be, there are a lot of places they cited it. How have we carried it? I'm sure that those designs we have made, they were being captured in our budget. So because there are no consequences, things like this continue to happen. When it comes to disaster, there are people that feel fast from it. When it comes to disaster, was it not during COVID-19 that we had a minister that told us that he fed school children in billions when we had a lockdown. So if there are serious consequences for bad behavior, for wickedness that we see people that have opportunity to lead, but they used to abuse such opportunities, things will improve. We will be thinking ahead. Now that we are in dry season, there will be concrete effort to see that we avert such dangers in the future. But we'll wait until it comes, because once it comes, even the government that claim they don't have money will source for money from anywhere to push to that angle.
Now talking about the money as well, Comrade Katchy, we keep talking about this ecological fund that is supposed to be available for states that suffer from natural disasters, much like flood. But in terms of the accountability on the part of states, or even those who have accessed the ecological fund, there's very little reports available. What do you think can be done about transparency in that regard?
This is where we talked about restructuring, because over the years, those that are supposed to do that check and balances with regards to accountability and transparency, which is the National Assembly that represents the Nigerian people, sometimes compromise, not most of the times compromise. They will come to the camera, they will behave as if they are doing the right thing. They will behave as if they carry the interest of the nation at heart. But once the camera is shut down, you see a different thing. So this is where, because no matter how we advocate, we analyze, we raise issues, it's not making any part. So let us restructure the country. Any region that wants to progress should progress. The one that wants to retrogress should retrogress. Because of accountability, a lot of agencies have been created. Because of accountability, a lot of laws have been enacted. Acts like Freedom of Information Act, and so many other agencies that are supposed to checkmate. At the end of the day, we still have even more work than what we used to have. Freedom of Information Act now, as of today, you cannot easily go and demand the records of what really happened in that agency, how they receive budgets and how they, make use of it. Say from 2023 to date, you will not get it. Even when you use court order. So I think the best we can do for our nation is what I see somewhere this current administration is thinking towards it, but there are still a lot of rooms for improvement, like the autonomy they gave to local government. Yet they have not been able to make direct payment to local government. They continue to make payments to joint accounts. To states.
We'll talk about that in some other episode, but just to wrap up on this issue, many have talked about it from the angle of the porosity of our borders. Now, some of the insurgents and bandits, particularly the likes of Bello Turji, who continues to remain evasive despite attempts by the Nigerian army to capture him, people talk about the fact that it's easy for them to come in through Chad, Niger, and maneuver their ways in and out of the country. If this has been the case over 15 years, why has it become so difficult for Nigeria to check the porosity of our borders?
I don't think our border is porous. I think it's willful sabotage. That is why I say restructuring is the key. Because if you talk about the porosity of the borders, if you look downward at the country, I mean the southern country, the south aspect of the country, you will discover that our borders are not porous in those areas. Go to Seme, go to Oyo, Ondo, Ibadan, Osun, down to even south to Atlantic Ocean. You will discover that the borders are actually not porous. But when you go to the north, you begin to hear issues of porous border. That is to tell you that people are willfully and deliberately sabotaging that effort. So if we are sincere and maybe say we restructure, and those that are manning their borders in the south are making money, because I'm sure that over 80% of whatever the customs announced every year as profit comes from the south. So if they are serious and restructure, customs, for example, that are supposed to man our borders and other agencies that work with them are securing their borders, and whatever they are getting is they are using it to develop the states where they are developing it, or the region where they are getting it. And those who decide to make their borders porous, you see that issues of porous border will not be a case again. It will die naturally. Everybody will sit up. But no matter the amount of recruitment you make and the amount of money you push to that place, you will continue to see that the borders are porous. Are we going to be starting like Donald Trump, that is building fence or wall between them and Mexico? That cannot be the case. It's when we have that commitment as the people and make our nation number one, our country number one, country first. That's when you will see that borders will no longer be porous.
Well,
so as far as we are still running this feeding bottle kind of policies, it doesn't matter wherever you raise our money, but let's bring it to Abuja and share it. We continue to experience porous border.
Well, in moving on to another subject matter that has become very dramatic, a lot of Nigerians were not too surprised, but were taken aback when the PDP National Secretariat became a ground for fracas. Now, the two warring fractions, one led by Anyanwu and the other by Okoye, saw part of their supporters, who some news report outlets are calling thugs this morning, resort to exchanging fisticuffs and blows. I don't know what you make of the breakdown of law and order at the PDP Board of Trustee meeting yesterday.
It's unfortunate that it happened, but that is a reality of political space in our nation today. It's not just about PDP. It cut across almost all the political parties. So there's no party that you can say is exempted. It's a matter of when your time comes. PDP own, it's been seen yesterday. I mean, it's not just yesterday. It has been coming up for a very long time, since last year, when we have a pro-Wike group and pro-Atiku group, and so on and so forth, that are struggling for the control of the party and party structure. But then it's something that is reflective of our political space that is very, very intolerant, that believe that winner takes it all. That is, so yes, it happened to PDP. Just wait until when Labour will do their own, or APC will do their own, or any other party, NAPP, PRP, NRM, APGA, and the rest. Anytime they decide to organize anything politically, you will see thuggery. You will see fighting, because the way we run our politics in Nigeria is winner takes it all. And it's not supposed to be so. Once we change our mentality, you will not see do or die attitude or approach to politics.
Now let's look at it from the root cause of this issue. The position of party scribe in the PDP. Now, one would think that having a elder statesman or even a past legislative high-ranking official in the likes of Senator Adolphus Wabara and Ambassador Umar Damagun in the PDP, the position of party scribe would have been not one that would result into so much chaos with such caliber of men at the helms of affairs. As chairman board of trustees, Senator Wabara talked about rising above personal interest. How hard is that message to convey to people who would throw caution to the wind just to clinch the position of party scribe? Does it worry you that if at that level this amount of force and violence is used, if they rise to higher positions in our national interest, does this mean that they could even degenerate even into a bigger tension or violence?
Well, they say he who lives in a glass house does not throw stones. You understand? If an elder that grow to, by God's grace and mercy, and you grow to a certain age that you should be classified as an elder, but during your growing years, they can say you do a lot of things with integrity. If you appear even where there are issues, people will listen to you. But if they discover that your arms are filled with different kinds of oil, red, black, and what have you, you may not command the respect that is expected. And that is why it appears like our morals, traditional morals, that makes it clear that when you see an elder, you dobale. You slow down in some of the engagements and activities. It's no longer there. Nobody respects it because of they have soiled their hands. There are certain individuals that if they come out in such circumstances, such situation, tension will be down. But what we are seeing there now is desperation. A situation where you come and say one thing and during when you want to take action, you will do another thing. So those leadership in the PDP, especially the board of trustees, they should be sincere in their approach. They should be honest in their approach. It shouldn't be a situation whereby you will say one thing on air today and at night you will be found doing another thing.
Now let's talk about the leadership.
Expectation of who will fly the ticket in 2027.
Now,
so they are moving their way. Atiku, Wike, if they can even just announce, okay, both Atiku and Wike should not be given tickets. You see some of these things with them, but you cannot deny them. It's their fundamental right to aspire.
Now talking about 2027, we've seen candidates like Peter Obi talk about the fact that if the PDP has his house in the way it is, he is not in the conversations for a mega party. Now, the PDP is also banking on this mega party conversation, much like the NPP ahead of 2027. But with you also talking about some of the confusion in Labour Party, how high are the hopes for a mega party in 2027?
Without a coalition or mega party, as you put it, no matter whatever APC falls down on Nigerians, and Nigerians cannot even take them out of office. You know, that was how PDP used to war strong. You know, that at a point, some of their leaders started boasting that they will be there for over 70, 60 years, 80 years, as the case may be. Until there was a coalition. ACN, CPC, some part of APGA, new PDP, and so on and so forth. You know, put their heads together to form APC. So it's only coalition that can rescue Nigeria from what we have. And that coalition must be centered on Nigeria first. It shouldn't be with intention of grabbing power. Because it appears like for APC, the intention was just to grab power. And we have seen where it has led us to. But no matter whoever that is in charge, in running the affairs of this country, if we don't restructure our country, possibly scrap this constitution we are using today, have a brand new one, or possibly amend it to accommodate a lot of things that are not there. You understand? Things like a referendum, things like regional government, things like state police, and so on and so forth. We'll continue to, whoever that comes in will continue to struggle to position Nigeria better. Now that's why we don't have good intention coming in.
People also talk about the need for a party ideology, as it's easy for politicians to jump ship from one party to another. Also making the rounds in the news this morning is that the APC has expelled Aregbesola and have accused him of anti-party activities. But people are asking, what's going to be the difference even if we have a mega party? Because we find people cross-carpet from the PDP to the APC, from NPP back to PDP and APC and whatever. Does it make you worry that some of these parties haven't clearly outlined their ideologies?
You see, as of today, in Nigerian political system, no party you can hit your chest that has any ideology. The only few parts out of the 19 or 18 parties we have today that you can say, okay, this one has some high level of ideological principles, as parties like AAC of Shore and PRP. You understand? They are telling that a socialist party. Look at what they intend to do, and they continue to maintain it. In all their campaign, in all their activities, in all their rallies, they continue to present these ideologies. But today, we don't have party supremacy over elected officials. Because of praise singing, sycophants, eye service. Once you get elected, it appears like you are supreme authority to party that brought you in. This is what we have. A state that have governor will want to superintend what is happening in that party. A state that have, a country that have president will be seeing the president to be superior to the party. It shouldn't be so. It wasn't so in the 80s, 70s. It wasn't so even in places like the US, the South Africa, the UK. You see parties, once they have their manifesto and see, no matter the highest elective post that you see somebody going contrary to it, they will stand firm, they will stand up against it. They will draw your attention. But that's not the case here. Arebashola being announced that they suspend or they expel because it's no longer either the governor or minister. If Arebashola was to have one elective post, you will not be hearing that. And they too know that Arebashola is the big weight there. So because of the forthcoming state election, they fear that his continuous stay in the party will affect whoever they want to give the ticket, especially persons like Oyetola, who was the former governor, who is seeking for second time in office. They may find it hard to get. So they must begin to clip the wings of potential people they see as dangers.
No, talking about what constitutes
party, it's not only Arebashola can bring in that picture. You have the likes of El Rufai, who recent most as a last year visited a lot of political parties. You have the likes of Rotimi Amechi, who has from time to time tried to make instigate Nigerians against the government. We have a whole lot of them you can mention.
Now talking about this anti-party activities, let's just go down history lane. Remember when the G5 were a thing in the PDP, then the current NCC minister was governor of Rivers State. He was a close ally with the governor of Benue State. And they were so proud about their strength and hold on the PDP. Up until the 2023 elections, where all of a sudden the non-FCC minister made a U-turn and backed the president, unknown to many, that a few years down the line he will be minister of the FCT. But he still is a PDP card-carrying member. Now ahead of 2027, you're thinking that he might vie for the seat, but it's still on the accusation, even within his party, that he is doing all it takes to keep the APC in power. How do we balance these conversations? Much like you said, do elective positions change whatever atmosphere the party has towards its intentions, especially when they have members that are in romance with the opposition?
Well, as it stands today, everybody is entitled to contest. It's a fundamental right. It's a constitutional right. You understand? But then, openly, Mr. Nyesom Wike, the Honorable Minister of FCT, has declared loyalty, absolute loyalty, and total support to Asiwaju's, if he so wished, to come for second term. But I have, over the years, from antecedents, I've shown that Mr. Wike oftentimes goes back to what it is he has vomited. Oftentimes, history has shown that some of the things he has said, he has not been able to keep to it. So I will not be surprised if by 2027 he decides to run. And perhaps when he loses the ticket from any party, whether it's PDP or any other party, he will switch to supporting to be politically relevant. So if there are insinuations that he is trying to destroy the opposition so that they will have a few days, that situation may not be bad. It may not be a lie. But Wike, I know, has a mind of his own. he may genuinely want to contest. You understand me? But whenever he misses the target, it will be a PhD attitude that he will embark upon. That is putting him down. So I pity for PDP, because whatever they think they have achieved, even with regards to last general election, they will continue to lose more ground if they don't either form a coalition. Because forming a coalition is the best way they can remedy the rots they have in their party. That coalition will give room for fresh handlers to administer the party. But if it is what we have today, honestly speaking, there's no way they will fight with Wike and have a free day. In fact, there's no way they will battle with Wike and go scot-free without injuries. Now, because Wike has had a very strong grip of the party. So the best they can do, form a coalition. That coalition will give room to fresh hands in handling situations. Thereby, it's either Wike group want to join the coalition or not, or Atiku group want to join the coalition or not. It will settle some of these things, but the way it is today, Anyanwu will get his own order. Okoye will get his own court order. Which one are you going to take? If BOT want to wait in, okay, leave the party administration for us, even if on an interim, whether it's for 3 months or 6 months. They will not agree because their constitution does not give room to that. So it appears like the challenges they are facing is a challenge that one cannot easily predict the ending.
Now let's see if you can predict this one. Who do you think would be the party's flag bearer, owing to the fact that the former VP Alhaji Atiku Abubakar almost feels like though it's his birthright?
It's some of the things that made them to lose ground, and that is one of the things that even make Wike to have grip of the party. You can, under PDP, agree to rotational presidency. They had a Southerner who ruled for 8 years and hand over to a Northerner who spent 3 years before Call of Nature came. And unforeseen circumstances forced another Southerner to spend almost 5 years in office. So anywhere we take the argument, those in Atiku camp will have a valid argument to present. Those in Wike camp will have a valid argument to present. Don't forget that whoever becomes the president is not president of his political party. He's the president of Nigeria. And in other hand, those in Wike are making it clear that, yes, in the past 8 years, we have been ruled by a Northerner, which is a valid ground on its own. Let us have a shift. Let us look at the South. On the side of Atiku and the other group there, they are saying for our party, you guys have ruled for over 9 years of our, over 11 years of our 16 years reign. Or I think more than 13 years of our 16 years reign or thereabout. We have just ruled for 3 years and they have a valid argument. So the best they can do in this circumstance, just like I said earlier, let them form a coalition with other like-minded political parties. Form a mega party. If the national chairman is coming from the north, the candidate that will run for presidential election should come from the south. You see, these wars they are struggling the PDP will die a natural death. But as it stands now, it becomes a war without end. Because every one of the groups will have a valid point to present. And at the end of the day, if any of the group doesn't grab the ticket, they will start this internal wrangling of pulling him down syndrome. If I do not go there, let the breeze scatter. That's what they are doing. Now, and that is why I say, if the party, I think the party cannot even do, you say, okay, Atiku don't contest, Wike don't contest. They can't do that. It's a fundamental right.
Now at the National Assembly, there's also conversations on the concept of rotational presidency. A coalition of opposition lawmakers, 35 of them, are pushing a move for the motion of a single-year term for the presidency. I don't know what you make of it. Do you support the concept of rotational presidency? Should it begin from 2027? When would it be most ripe for this rotational presidency to begin?
Rotational presidency is a good one in the sense that it gives every region sense of belonging, you know. But rotational presidency has ushered us a lot of ill-prepared and has not given room to best how to manage this country. That's one of the disadvantages of it. It becomes money bag. The most popular wins it from that region. Once you have the money and you are popular, nobody's looking at your intellectual capacity. Nobody's looking at your character, your integrity, and so on and so forth. It because if you have money, you are popular, you take it. And that is what has led us to where we are. We have seen it in Buhari, we have seen it in Tinubu. You understand? If we say the rotational presidency, we have sound mind, like assuming that we have to say 2023 elections should come from Southwest. There are lives of Usibanjo. There are lives of Fayemi. And so on and so forth. You understand? But in that kind of political environment, grab, snatch, and run, they can't win it. Even if you do it to infinity. Except they begin to devise a way to be aggressive in their politicking. So rotational presidency is a good one, but it has advantage, it has disadvantage. You talk about single term. Yes, single term just to reduce this do or die attitude of politics. It cannot. If you look at the general interest of the country, to say, okay, we want to compete with other nations. Single regime cannot help us to compete with the likes of Japan, US, Germany, Russia, and some other countries. If you look at a country that have been able to wear their strong stick into international politics, as countries that have maintained its one policy and ideology. You look at Russia, where you have a president that has been there for long. You look at China, that have a president that has been there for long, and so on and so forth. They can maintain any policy they have embarked upon, sustain it. But by the time you begin to do rotational president of one single term, maybe this government will come with a policy of, okay, take for example, Jonathan started shopping. Buhari came and stopped it. Buhari started Empower and conditional cash transfer. Tinubu have come in. Empower is no longer there. I'm just using some samples. It becomes that you lost one idea, you start it, another government will come, if you collapse it. You will not be able to have a very strong grip with regards to international politics. We should have a leadership that is successive, that can wield influence in the international community. That's the only way you can be ranked among the leading nations on earth. That you see us being recognized is because of our population and the individual performances. If it's in terms of governance, we are nowhere. Not even in Africa. We are not even in top 5.
Now let's wrap it up because we have less than 3 minutes to wrap up the conversation. Emphasis on international politics. The neglected tropical diseases day is today, and we're earlier on looking at the headline that talked about our funding gap widening to as much as $8.6 trillion. Now, with the coming on board of President Donald Trump, he has also ordered the suspension of U.S. aid to countries like Nigeria. The challenge is people keep asking, we have some of the best minds and brain. What's happening to our research? Will we continue to depend on international funding to combat diseases in Nigeria?
Man, this is a very serious problem for us. For example, this issue of the antiretroviral drug with regard to
The
HIV.
antiretroviral for HIV, yeah.
You know, I don't know. In fact, it's a wake-up call for us. Because that does not mean that budgets are not being made for these agencies that are supposed to research and do a lot of work. You know, locally, domestically. But then, corruption and not, you know, checkmating and making sure there are consequences for those that divert those things. Makes it a few days. Because, in fact, there are some agencies you will go, they will tell you, wait for your turn. You understand? It becomes, you must not talk, wait for your own time. Wait for your own turn. Wait for your own turn. So that is it. I think the best we can do in this regard is to see that we restructure, giving more power to the states. Let the states go into these agencies, manage it themselves. It shouldn't be a turn-by-turn situation we have in our nation today with regards to some of these agencies. Anyone that goes in will want to pack as much as he can grab. It becomes, well, by the time you get back to your state, they say, what did you attract? What did you bring when you host way with regards to office you occupy at the center? So let us restructure. Come home, use what we have to build what we don't have. There are certain issues that even our herbal treatment takes care of than this orthodox treatment. You understand? If we can do research and see how we can, for example, measles in this country, research have shown that some herbal treatments are more effective. The 7 keys to power that over the years we have seen the impact have been one of the best drugs that they used to battle such sicknesses like that. It was produced by a Nigerian. How can we improve on it? You understand? We have seen the likes of Senator, I think, N8.6Trn embarking on getting vaccines to tackle malaria and some other issues that have been fighting us. The level of malaria we have in this country, I'm sure that if such malaria is, attacking US or developed countries, they would have developed vaccines for it or find a way to fight against it. But because we are dependent on them, because we have all these drugs like antihistamine and the rest that we use to maybe administer treatment after 1 month or thereabout, malaria comes back again. So it's time we look inward. See how we can tackle inward what we are facing. Thank God for Donald Trump. It's a wake-up call for all of us. It's a clarion call for all of us. What Donald Trump is doing nice, what our government did in the 80s, when they changed the lives of Ghana and other people and make Nigeria first. So that's what I think Donald Trump is doing in the US. So now they have stopped funding. No more free money. Let's look inward and see how we. In fact, I expect us now to mount a roadblock in our airport that none of our leaders, including the president and the governor, should go outside again for treatment. If you have headache, let us treat it here. If you cannot treat it here, resign. Then you can travel and go and treat yourself. You will see that some of the challenges we are facing will receive quick intervention. We will see progress in some of the things we are trying to do. No, but because we are press singers and we do eye servicemen, we will preach one thing, we will do another thing.
All right, Comrade Katchy, we must thank you for your objective and vehement opinion to the several issues in the news which we've discussed this morning. We appreciate you and wish you the best of the rest of today.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure.